Hello and welcome to the first ExpressSCH tutorial video. The first thing you're going to want to do is get into ExpressSCH. It's on all of the CETA computers and it should also be on the CETA computers in the library. As far as I know, I think this is open source, so you might be able to get a copy for yourself if you're interested in that. Circle back, we'll find out. So this is ExpressSCH. When you open a document, it probably looks a little like this, and the outline is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It is kind of small, so I end up zooming in once I've gotten started here. What I'm going to show you in this first video is how to use standard components and symbols in your diagrams. So the very first thing to show you here is the component menu. I'm going to have a component and symbol manager, and this is all of the standard stuff inside ExpressSCH. So one of the things we'll need is our connector. We have 8 connections going out to our circuit board, so we'll use an 8-pin connector. I'll just insert that into the schematic, and it inserts it in the center of my screen. So I either need to move my screen or move my component before I insert the next one. So now I'm going to see what else I can find. There's a number of passive components that you'll find helpful. There's a capacitor. We'll want the polarized version of that because our capacitor in this project is polarized. One of these is here it is. So this is the shortcut. I also have a couple of resistors, so I'll go ahead and add that. And I'm just going to Control C, Control V to copy and paste. And now I have 2 resistors, and I'm going to zoom in because this got small. The scroll wheel rather, zooms. So the next thing I need to do to use standard components is double click, and every component needs a component ID. So this is my connector. I'm going to call it J1. This is my capacitor. I'm going to call it C1, and in part name, I'm going to indicate that it's 1 microfarad. Okay. This is my resistor. I need to know which is which. I'm going to call this my, I think it's 22K. And actually, I'm going to pull up my specification just to make sure. Yeah, 22K. It could be any resistor, so if that's not what's in your kit, that's okay. But I'm going to put that here. So that's R1, and this will be R2, and this is my 10K precision resistor. So what's helpful is all of that's visible right away, right? So those are my standard components. I'm almost done with this video because what I want to show you next here is just the symbols. We can get a 5-volt voltage supply here. So maybe that goes on pin 1, and I can connect that and then drag it so that it's a little bit out of the way. I am also going to want ground. Insert into schematic. Maybe that'll be my pin 8. You don't have to make this 1 and 8. I tend to put them as far apart as I can, but it's not required. And I can also include, so for example, I don't need my capacitor in any particular place. I can put ground and copy paste. I can put 5 volts on my capacitor, and that's fully wired up, and it's clear that that's ground and 5 volts. So I don't need to make all of my wires messy. If I have an element that's over here taking 5 volts and ground, I can give it its own 5 volts and ground. I can also use tools over here to place a wire. And so that's the other thing that might be helpful. So if I wanted to give my R1 a connection to, let's say, 5 volts, which is required, and then a wire to pin 7, I would place it, oops, escape key works in SolidWorks, it doesn't work here. I put in my nice right angles, connect it to 7, and then right-click to finish my line. You'll find that takes some getting used to. So when I start a wire, I left-click everywhere I want to put a bend in the wire, and then I right-click to finish the wire. Okay. And then if I want to take that back out, I use the arrow tool to select it and use the delete key on my keyboard. Okay, so that concludes the standard components part of the ExpressSCH. So you find all your components on the component manager. It's either under library symbols or library components. And then wires are here. And that's pretty much what you need to know beyond double clicking on these and making sure they all have a unique part identifier. J's are for connectors, R's are for resistors, C's are for capacitors. And next video, I'll show you how to make your custom components, which are U's in ExpressSCH. So that concludes this first tutorial video.